It was really nice. First, I want to commend President Trump on his nomination of Kirstjen Nielsen to be the next Secretary of Homeland Security. As we deal with ongoing recovery efforts, she brings a proven track record in response and in emergency management. She's also widely respected for her expertise in cybersecurity. I hope the Senate will take up her nomination without delay. Today, the House is acting on two important pieces of legislation. The first is the Disaster Relief Supplemental. People are really hurting in these disaster areas, whether it's victims of the wildfires in California that we're seeing on the news today, or people rebuilding from Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Maria, and Nate. This legislation gives additional needed resources to communities suffering from the natural disasters that we've experienced over the past couple of months. Tomorrow, I'll be traveling to Puerto Rico with a bipartisan delegation to assess the damage and to get a briefing from local and federal officials. We need to stand with the people of Puerto Rico as they work to rebuild their communities. Today, the House is also acting on the Dr. Chris Kirkpatrick Whistleblower Protection Act. Where I come from, we know this story really well. This bill is named after a psychologist, Dr. Chris Kirkpatrick, who was a psychologist at the Toma VA in southwestern Wisconsin. There, he raised concerns about the overprescription of opioids. He was right about it. It was later found that compared to the national average, Toma patients were 2.5 times more likely to get high doses of opioids. Instead of being commended, Chris Kirkpatrick was reprimanded and then he was fired. Soon after that, he took his own life. So Dr. Kirkpatrick was targeted because he had the courage to speak out. This is an outrage, and it's an outrage because it's not an isolated incident. Retaliation against whistleblowers is rampant at VA facilities. This has got to end. So this bipartisan legislation will protect these whistleblowers from retaliation. It requires the VA to come up with a plan to stop unauthorized access of medical records. It expedites cases in which a federal employee is on probation, is fired for whistleblowing, and it requires employees to undergo whistleblower protection training. This stuff at the VA has got to end. This is bipartisan, and this legislation will help put an end to that and protect these whistleblowers. No one who stands up for our veterans should be marginalized, let alone targeted and fired. It's time we protect these whistleblowers and therefore the veterans that they serve. Questions? Chad.
Good morning. When you say you stand with the people of Puerto Rico and you're heading down there tomorrow, I know you don't like to respond to the president's tweets, but when he makes a comment like that, does that make your job harder?
Tell me what the one. I've been a little busy today. I haven't been looking at Twitter.
But you're busy. You're not busy enough to go down there tomorrow. And when the president of the United States sends a tweet like that, and people are all
tell me what the tweet is. I don't know what you're talking about.
We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders who have been amazing under the most difficult circumstances in Puerto Rico forever.
Oh, a radio show asked me about this morning, something like that. Look, we have I was at FEMA last week. We have 17,000 personnel on the ground in Puerto Rico between the Guard, the reserves, and FEMA. We're in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. So right now, while we're responding to a humanitarian crisis, these are the personnel that are necessary to respond to this humanitarian crisis. Guard, reserves, airlift, seaports being opened, Navy, Air Force, and FEMA. That is necessary, and that's what's happening right now. But yes, we need to make sure that Puerto Rico can begin to stand on its own 2 feet. They already had tough fiscal problems to begin with. You've heard me talk about the PROMESA legislation that's now in law, and we've got to do more to help Puerto Rico rebuild its own economy so that it can be self-sufficient. But at the moment, and that's why I'm going down there tomorrow, at the moment there's a humanitarian crisis that has to be attended to, and this is an area where the federal government has a responsibility, and we're acting on it. Rachel.
Following Murphy's resignation last week, a lot of former staffers have sort of come forward to talk about verbal abuse by the congressman, but also the chief of staff, from cursing and slamming doors to not being allowed to take lunch breaks and having time for bathroom breaks, and then when you're seeking to leave, having the congressman and the chief of staff say bad things about them to future employers. I'm wondering, do you think the Office of Compliance needs an overhaul, or are you confident that there's a system in place right now to ensure that staff?
Yeah, I read I think that was your article, right? I read your article on that. I didn't know about it until I read your article. But we have an Office of Employment Counsel that is there for employees to go on a confidential basis and get support and get help. We have an ethics committee that employees can go for redress if they feel that they're being mistreated, if there's a problem. So we actually do have procedures in place, the Office of Employment Counsel, the House Ethics Committees, for employees to get redress if they're being mistreated.
There was some concern that,
I don't know. I didn't know these happened until I read your article, so I can't speak to whether these employees use those resources or not. But the fact is, there are resources and people available on a confidential basis for employees if they want to use those services. Christina.
Republicans criticize former President Obama for acting on his own, using executive orders and his executive authority. What do you make of President Trump acting on his own on health care after Congress came up?
Well, you've heard us say phases and buckets and all of these things. We have envisioned for a long time 3 phases to our health care policy making. Phase 1, which unfortunately has not happened in the Senate yet, but the House passed its bill. You passed legislation to repeal and replace. Phase 2 has been regulatory relief through the executive branch of the government, which is what this is. This is phase 2. This is sort of the deregulation and the right sizing of our regulations of health care. It's always been planned all along because, again, we think the Obama administration went too far on the regulatory front. This is meant to address that. And then phase 3 are the other bills that you can't put in reconciliation to affect health care costs. We've passed McCarran-Ferguson reforms. We passed Association of Health Plans, medical liability reform. So this has long been part of our strategy to try and help Americans get access to more affordable health care, to bring more choice and competition in the marketplace and lower premiums. So it's in perfect keeping with what we've been planning all along. Yeah.
The president said yesterday it's disgusting the press is able to write whatever it wants to write, and it suggested that network licenses should be revoked possibly. Or
Are you from NBC? I'm just messing with you. I'm just totally messing with you. I know Casey is. I'm just joking with you. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
agree with the president's
Like,
interpretation of the First Amendment?
I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm for the First Amendment. I don't always agree and like what you guys write, but you have a right to do it, and I'm a constitutional conservative, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Does it concern you that the president seems to disagree?
This is how I see it. Phil.
Kind of a broader question on healthcare. You have CSRs on a month-to-month basis. You have an executive order that conceivably could undercut the individual market at some level. You have a pullback on the spending for open enrollment. There's no near-term legislative effort. What is the end game right now? Is it just?
It's a really good question.
Important? Is that it?
You have to pass legislation to fix this problem, and unfortunately the Senate has been unable to do that. The House passed its bill on Obamacare in May. We've been waiting for the Senate to be able to get their votes together to pass legislation. And you're right, Phil, the individual market is imploding. The reason it's imploding is because Obamacare doesn't work. Obamacare has set this system in place where we basically have a death spiral. The latest estimates I have seen is that about 47% of the counties in America in 2018 will be down to one health insurer left in these exchanges. That's a monopoly. That isn't a choice. And the premiums have already doubled since this law occurred, and deductibles are sky high. So I really think legislation is the way to go, but the Senate has been unable to pass something. The way I look at it is if you first don't succeed, try again. So we just keep telling our Senate friends, just keep at it. They lost the reconciliation tool the other day on September 30th. You know, we're just going to have to keep working at this problem because this law is unsustainable.
But in the meantime, exacerbating the issues that you
I think that's the consequence of the Senate failing to pass legislation. Who are you with again?
You praised the legislative priorities on immigration the Trump administration put out.
Just tell me who you're with again. I apologize. What is your name and who are you with? Okay, sorry. Apologize. Yeah.
What has the White House been doing to help you guys to put legislation together accomplishing those priorities, and what timetable?
On immigration? Actually, our working group has worked very closely with the administration. They basically have lined out their priorities. It goes back to the core of, like we've said, we believe that a DACA fix, which we agree with, needs to be coupled with border security and enforcement so that we don't have a DACA problem 10 years down the road. Now, what we are getting into is what do those details look like? How does it come together? Where is there consensus? And that's what we're still working on. I'm going to see you in a minute, Casey, so hey. Well, it's not twofer.
Mr. Speaker, you said at
The bonus.
hearings this morning, you know, we're going to keep people here till Christmas if we need to do tax reform. You've got not only tax reform, but all of the fiscal issues that need to be dealt with by then. Immigration. Can you just walk through how you see the next couple months?
Look.
And do you see this all getting resolved in one big ball of wax before Christmas, or what's your plan to avoid that?
That's a great visual. Thank you for that. No, I mean, first of all, you can't do, technically speaking, you can't put discretionary spending in reconciliation legislation, so you can't do it in one big ball of wax. So these are discrete, separate parts. Here's the point I'm making. Half this country is living paycheck to paycheck. And if that means we've got to stay here till Christmas to give them the relief they need and deserve, then tough, we will do that. Because this has got to get done because people are hurting in this country, and we have a solution to help them. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Last question.
We were pulling out of the Paris Agreement. We pulled out of UNESCO this morning. The president wants to renegotiate the Iran deal. Regardless of how you feel about those various agreements, do you worry that pulling out of all these agreements sends a message that the United States doesn't keep its word?
No, I don't think it does. I think administration has changed policies. I think the last administration made some big policy mistakes. And so I think this administration is following up on its policy preferences. With respect to the Iran deal, I think we need a comprehensive strategy on Iran. We don't have one. And I think this deal was a bad deal. It allows them to get nuclear weapons. And Iran has been bullying their neighbors. They've been destabilizing the region. They're basically at war with some of their neighbors. And their activities and behavior has only gotten worse since the Iran deal. So I think we're due for a comprehensive strategy on Iran, and I think that's what the administration is working on and getting set to announce. With respect to some of these other multilateral deals, if they were bad deals, then they were bad deals. And if they can replace with superior policy, then that's what any new administration should try to do. So, thanks, everybody.